This is Doug Mastriano, and he's running for Pennsylvania governor. By the time this video comes out, we will know one way or another if he is going to be the next Pennsylvania governor. Listen to what he had to say early October 2022.
On day one, the sexualization of our kids, pole dancing, and all this other crap that's going on will be forbidden in our schools.
Kids pole dancing in our schools? Can you name one example of this happening? Literally anywhere. Just one. I will wait.
On day one, all the pornographic books that are in elementary schools will be pulled out.
He thinks kids are sitting in school looking at porn? No, this is fabricated nonsense. This is not happening. I feel like I shouldn't even have to say that after his first comment about pole dancing, but I'm just putting it on record.
On day one and done, critical race theory is out the window. Yep.
It would be great if he could define what he thinks that is for us.
That's right. Yep. Come on.
Okay, so who is Doug Mastriano? Let's talk about some of his other political positions, because as I said, he has a real chance at being the Pennsylvania governor, and if he doesn't become the governor, this is still where political discourse is right now in America. We need to talk about this one way or another. One more thing about the CRT thing. CRT, critical race theory, is actually a college-level post-grad course, usually like law school course that people take as a lens of analysis to view society. It's not a lens that people usually view society through on a daily basis. This is just an analytical tool that people use to view the law and things like that. It's only taught in upper-level college classes. There is no CRT in elementary, middle, or high school. Completely fabricated. Here's another reason we need to talk about this guy. The Christian nationalist arm of political discourse in America is getting a foothold right now. This is Eric Metaxas on the left. He's a full-blown Christian nationalist extremist, and he decided to have Mastriano on his show, the Eric Metaxas radio show, to talk to him about his beliefs and feelings and goals and aspirations. Early October 2022.
Well, people like Josh Shapiro,
Josh Shapiro is Mastriano's opponent in the gubernatorial race in Pennsylvania right now.
I will say it, you can't, but he's a villain. He's focusing on things that are monstrous. This is not, well, we differ. This is evil, ladies and gentlemen, and you have a vote, and if you don't tell everyone you know in the state of Pennsylvania to vote for Doug Mastriano, and against Josh Shapiro, you are aiding and abetting a horror story.
That's really disturbing. That is deeply disturbing for a number of reasons. Let me just lay out a few. First of all, what this guy is saying here is creating an us versus them mentality. Now, why is that disturbing, I hear you ask? This is literally, I'm not going to use hyperbole here. I want you to bear with me because it sounds like it's hyperbole. It's not. I'm going to back that up in a second. This is exactly what Nazis did in World War II. No joke. Let me back that up with evidence. There's this video from 1942 called Don't Be a Sucker. I think it's between 1942 and 1947. I'm not exactly sure which year it came out, but it's from that era. The whole idea of this show was to prevent America from slipping down the fascist hole that Germany slipped into during World War II. From the early 30s Germany to 1940s Germany, basically. So they make this film to try to prevent people from falling into this hole. Watch what happens here. This guy walks up to a guy on the street, on the corner, talking about politics.
The truth about America. I know you've got a lot of questions. You want to know why you're not getting the breaks you deserve. Well, I'm not a politician, but I've made it my business to study these things, and I happen to know the facts. Now, friends, I'm just an average American. But I'm an American, and some of the things I see in this country of ours make my blood boil. I see people with foreign accents making all the money. I see Negroes holding jobs that belong to me and you. Now I ask you, if we allow this thing to go on, what's going to become of us real Americans?
Is this sounding familiar? Does this sound like anybody that we know and love? Somebody that recently ran for office, didn't expect him to win, but he did. Is it sounding familiar at all? Then this guy sits down with the other dude to have a chat with him about what we just heard.
Before he said Masons, you were ready to agree with him.
Well, yes, but he was talking about, what about those other people?
But in this country, we have no other people. We are American people, all of us.
What about you? You aren't American, are you?
I was born in Hungary, but now I am an American citizen. And I have seen what this kind of talk can do. I saw it in Berlin.
What were you doing there?
I was a professor at the university. I heard the same words we have heard today. But I was a fool then. I thought Nazis were crazy people, stupid fanatics. But unfortunately, it was not so.
They zoom forward in a little bit and show how this played out in Germany. Listen to this.
5 young men that I knew were standing in the crowd listening to the Nazi speaker. Eric was a Catholic. Anton, a student of mine, was a Jew. Heinrich owned a small hardware store. Karl was a farmer. And Hans was an unemployed metal worker.
To all true Aryan Germans, I say it is time you inherited the nation which rightfully belongs to you. To you alone belongs the glorious destiny of the greater Germany. The Nazi Party will provide land for the farmer, work for the worker, and profits for the small businessman. Who is getting these things now? The Jew. The Jew who has stolen our nation and our birthright. Who makes all the money and takes all our jobs? The Jew! He must be shunned. He must be ostracized. He must be eliminated.
Is this sounding familiar at all? Demonizing people for intrinsic qualities about them?
In the state of Pennsylvania, to vote for Doug Mastriano and against Josh Shapiro, you are aiding and abetting a horror story. People are being murdered. If you ever meet someone who has had a loved one murdered, it doesn't get worse when the government cannot protect us from violent crime. That's as basic as it gets.
See, it's all focusing around othering. You are evil if you support this person. You are evil if you believe this thing. You are contributing, aiding, and abetting this evil murder machine. This is exactly what people were saying in the early 1930s in Germany. Exactly the same stuff. No joke. So what we're listening to right now is pure, unadulterated fascism and extremism, and this is why the us versus them mentality is so deeply wrong and disturbing. Something else that this video from 1942, I think, goes on to point out is that, you know what, I'll just let them say it for us. Listen to this little section right here.
There were others who spoke for truth, and I am proud to say that educators were among them.
And what, may I ask, is an Aryan? I don't know myself.
It's because there's no such thing as an Aryan.
But let us see what our present so-called authorities have to say about it. They say he is tall, slender,
dude, I love this guy's mustache. It is absolutely on point. I've been doing everything I can to not swear on stream for a while now, but that mustache and those eyebrows absolutely warrant a fuck.
blue-eyed, and blonde.
The point is, the people that he was pointing to, none of them represent what they claim the Aryan race was.
There is no Aryan race. And more important, there is no master race. There are people who may find these ideas convenient, but science cannot support them. There is no scientific proof that there's any correlation between a man's racial characteristics and his native ability or character.
Dude, imagine saying something contrary to the party when the students in your class are all part of the Hitler Youth. Like, almost every kid was at the time, and they're all wearing armbands like this. You've got to have a serious apple bag to do something like that.
Ability or character. In all racial groups, we find the same range of potentialities. We find idiots and geniuses. We find criminals and philanthropists. We must judge each man as an individual and not by the color of his skin or his eyes.
Prejudice and hatred is learned. It is not innate. It's not inborn. There is some degree of a tribalistic attitude that you're born with. You know, you prefer people who also like your sports team, or people who are born in the same area as you or whatever. But this distinction in race between blacks and whites and Asians and whatever else, it's fabricated. It's taught. It's created to serve a purpose. And the point of this whole video, Don't Be a Sucker, is that people are teaching prejudice to get something out of it. They are suckering you into being their lackey, into doing what they want you to do. They're benefiting from your hatred. They're earning money from it.
Or by the length of his nose.
This is how it went, man. This is pretty accurate. It's scary stuff. This teacher was teaching the accurate science that there is no Aryan race. There's no such thing as a master race, to a classroom full of Hitler Youth. And this was inevitable, and he knew it was. This stuff really happened.
Come in, gentlemen. Make yourselves comfortable. There are many differences between individuals. We each have different capabilities, different backgrounds, different views about what's right and what's wrong. Like the difference between me and these gentlemen who have just arrived. But that is not the difference in race. It is a difference in the way we think. Remember that. And remember that there is no master race. That is a scientific truth. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying.
That's how it went. That was extremely common back then, and look at what we're listening to all over again. Eric Metaxas has been pretty mild so far in what he's said. Not quite as on the nose. But I'll tell you this, he has a lot of guests on who say similar things. Like this one right here. This guy's name was John Zimmerack, I believe, on Eric Metaxas' radio show.
This is spiritual warfare, and we are now in the Normandy landing of spiritual warfare. The Democratic Party is possessed by preternatural evil. It is not a human institution anymore. It is an instrument of wicked spirits. This is demonic.
Is this sounding familiar to anybody else? That's what we're dealing with now. So let's keep listening to Eric Metaxas and Doug Mastriano, gubernatorial candidate for Pennsylvania, talk about how evil and sick and demented and twisted their opponents are.
Violent crime. And not
violent.
Only is Josh Shapiro, Doug Mastriano's opponent, not protecting the people of Pennsylvania from violent crime. His policies have aided and abetted it. It's the sort of thing, it's like out of a comic book. This is villainy. This is evil. And the only thing that has to happen is, folks, you need to get into that voting booth and you need to tell everyone you know, because this is literally lives are at stake. if a year from now a relative of yours is murdered and you didn't vote, you're gonna think, well, maybe I should have voted.
That is where we are with the Republican Party currently. It is deeply disturbing stuff, seriously. A while back, he went to a QAnon conference called Patriots Arise, where they handed him this sword as a prize or as a thank you or whatever for coming to their conference. Check this out.
When we were planning this conference, and I'm just thinking about the warfare that you both have gone through, and we thought, wow, Lord, what would be the best gift for them? And we thought of the David sword, because you've been cutting a lot of heads off. And
cutting a lot of heads off, she says. No, she means that in a figurative sense right now. We'll see if that changes.
And so we had inscribed in there for God and country, because you have been fighting for our country, and you're fighting for our religious rights in Christ Jesus. So we wanted to bless you with that sword of David, and then a bunch of goodies in here too. So it's kind of heavy. Hopefully it won't break. But
yeah, they're all extremists. They're all QAnoners. These are QAnoners, by the way. This is a full-blown QAnon conference. It believes all the adrenochrome stuff and the whole 9 yards. These are all extremists. He only ever really associates with extremists. Before we continue, I just wanted to mention something. If you like what I do and you want to see me continue to do it, you can support me in a few ways. First, there's Patreon. That's probably the best way. But if you want to get something back for your support, you can check out my Teespring. Or you can check out my Telltale Unfiltered channel. I go through long-form, unhinged sermons from all kinds of people, from Hank Kunneman to Greg Locke to Jehovah's Witnesses. So give it a look. Links are in the description. Okay, now back to the video. He famously took a picture with some faculty at a university or something, and it was like a dress-up day or whatever, and he chose to wear a Confederate soldier's uniform. He's the only one who chose to wear a Confederate soldier's uniform. The only one. Weird choice, huh? Why a Confederate soldier of all things? Why couldn't he have chosen the Union soldier? That wasn't part of the deal. I mean, he was perfectly free to choose any of them. He chose the Confederate one. He goes out there and tries to defend his decision to, I think this is Newsmax. Yeah, this is Dan Ball. I believe it's Newsmax. Listen to this.
As one of the faculty historians, there's a handful of us that are actually doctors of history at the War College at the time, and gave many, many tours, hundreds of tours of the battlefield, which is just 40 minutes south of War College. And like I said, it's around the corner from my house here. And I think it's important we understand the past so to have a better future. And
Absolutely. Agreed. I want to understand the past to have a better future, too. Only I want to understand the Union side a little better. I'm okay with understanding the Confederate side, too, in an effort to prevent that from happening again. Why is he wearing the Confederate uniform? This is not a requirement. This wasn't like a reenactment, like, oh, those guys are going to dress up as Union, I got to do the other side. No, this was his conscious choice to wear a Confederate uniform.
Also not to repeat the mistakes of the past. Exactly. And so, I know, God have mercy on your soul. What's the irony was, there I am just dressed up as a regular soldier. All the leaders of the Confederacy were Democrats. All the slaveholders, which would...
Such a dirty, underhanded argument. They were all Democrats, yeah, but they were conservatives. The Democratic Party was the conservative party at the time. It wasn't until the 60s and 70s, and even a little bit later, before the Republican Party became the conservative party. There's a party switch in the U.S. It's such a common piece of propaganda. I feel like I have to address it every time it comes up.
Made up a very small proportion of the Confederate Army were slaveholders that were Democrats. And the founders of the KKK were the Democrats. Those who...
And what are they now? They're all Republicans. They all voted for Trump. The KKK did, because there's a party switch.
Perpetuated Jim Crow laws and segregation were Democrats. You see that there's a problem here. The Republican Party, of course, was formed to get rid of slavery.
Okay, no, I'm not super sure that that's why the Republican Party was formed, but okay, whatever. The point is it was the Conservative Party that started the KKK. It was the Conservative Party that didn't want to abolish slavery. It was the Conservative Party that split off from the Union and created the Confederacy. That's what it was. And he knows that. He claims to be a historian. I don't know what his credentials actually are. So he's allegedly a historian. He knows that full well. He knows what he's doing right now is lying. So obviously he's not on the side of the Confederacy, right? That's what we just heard from the guy. He told us we're just worried over a hill of bananas over here. There's no reason to think that he would be in favor of the Confederacy. So it would be pretty awkward to come across a video of him praising somebody for wearing a Confederate flag as a cape, right? That would be really weird if we came across something like that.
You too.
Introduce myself, Eric from Lancaster.
Eric is.
I follow you every night on Facebook.
That is Any words of wisdom for our constituents out there?
It's kind of hard to tell, but this is in the background here. You can see it's an American flag melded with a Confederate flag. American flag is on the right side, Confederate's on the left or whatever, on the cape. This is just ridiculous at its face. Anyway, yeah, he's wearing a Confederate flag as a cape, basically.
I wouldn't show up today.
Not unless you love America. You're looking good there, man.
Thanks.
I can't think of a better cape.
Wow, for somebody who doesn't like the Confederacy, who thinks that it was wrong and was only dressing up as a Confederate soldier as like a joke or ironically or whatever, kind of weird to find a video of this guy praising somebody for wearing a Confederate flag as a cape. Super weird, huh? The weirdest. There's a better shot of the cape right there. Yeah, see, it's an American flag melded with a Confederate flag. So there you go. Why would they even make those? Is it a message of like separate but equal? Like America and Confederacy should be separate? Or I don't know. I don't know what the message is. I have no idea. But either way, Doug Mastriano endorsed that message. So go right down the drain with all those defensive claims like, oh, I was just dressing up so we can remember, just got to remember. Can't tear down any of these statues. We got to remember because statues are the only way to remember anything, apparently. It's just absurd. It's absurd at its face. And it's ridiculous to think that there are people out there who actually buy these ridiculous excuses. Come on. If that doesn't disturb you, listen to this. This is Ali Alexander on screen. This is from late September 2022. Ali Alexander was the person he's the one that applied for the permit to hold the protest on January 6th and some of the events and stuff like that. So he's actually extremely influential. I've never talked about him before, but he's very high up in the Trumpist movement and very, very influential in his own right. So anyway, listen to what Ali Alexander has to say about the Doug Mastriano campaign.
Ali Alexander says, vote! Vote for Doug Mastriano. In fact, if you can find a way to secretly vote twice, no, I'm just kidding. But am I? Don't get caught.
That doesn't sound like a joke to me. People are literally encouraging others to go out there and vote twice. That is the stupidest idea you could possibly have. Do you know how many people got caught last, 2020, who voted twice? A lot. And they were almost all Trump supporters, interestingly enough. You want to know why? Because Trump's side says things like this. This is not the only example of it. Let me show you another. This is from September 2nd, 2020. It was right before the election actually took place. It was in North Carolina. Yeah, North Carolina. Trump gets off an airplane and talks to a reporter.
600,000 people could vote by absentee in this state. Are you confident in that system?
Well, they'll go out and they'll vote, and they're going to have to go and check their vote by going to the poll and voting that way, because if it tabulates, then they won't be able to do that. So
he just told people to vote twice also, which is, as far as I know, I think illegal. That's why Ali Alexander in the first place said he was joking. How did Trump get away with it? You got me?
Let them send it in and let them go vote. And if their system's as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote. If it isn't tabulated, they'll be able to vote. So that's the way it is.
Actual voter fraud, or actual encouragement of voter fraud at the very least, it has been a theme in the Republican Party for a while now. Here is one example of Trump doing it, and here is a brand new example of Ali Alexander doing it. Like I said, do not downplay the significance of this guy. He's extremely influential in the movement, as far as I know, is in direct contact with Trump, or was, at the very least, on January 6th. I have more info on that, but I don't want to get into it because I haven't verified any of it. So I'm only going to tell you things that I know for sure. So yeah, that's Doug Mastriano, and that's why he's most definitely not on the side that he thinks he's on. That's why we have to defeat him in November. And not only that, we have to defeat the ideas in the country in the coming decade. Whether he wins or not, these ideas will linger. We can't escape this. We're going to have to address it as a society, unfortunately. If you disagree with anything I've said, let me know in the comments or on Twitter at @TelltaleAtheist. Kitty Mom, I have a friend who's a Trump supporter. Yes, I know. Even she really doesn't like Mastriano. Well, that might be a good sign, right? I'm not sure if Mastriano got Trump's endorsement or not. Did he? I don't remember. Let me see. He seems like the type of person who would get his endorsement. Oh, wow. Okay. It looks like he was endorsed like a day before his primary or something like that. It appears. Yeah, it looks like Mastriano has been Trump endorsed, but hey, it's a good sign that maybe he's not as popular in Trump circles as we think he is. He doesn't have the best chance of winning, but he's got a way better chance than he should. I think he's currently at like 40% to Josh Shapiro's 48% or something. Let's see. Let me just look it up. No need to wonder. Just loaded up our question gun. Let's go answer hunting. Okay. Mastriano is at 41%. Shapiro's at 51%. So there's a 10-point split. Do not get cocky with this. Seriously, do not get cocky with this. It could go any way. It's entirely too close for my comfort. Get out there and vote if you're in Pennsylvania, period. Or Georgia, or honestly anywhere. Deeply disturbing stuff, man. Are we perhaps exaggerating the amount of support these people have? Like, how many views does Victory Channel get? There are more of us, right? Says Booster Gold. There are more of us. But, well, Victory Channel, I don't know how many views they get exactly. It's a channel on, like, Dish Network and DirecTV and stuff. It's like a TV channel, like CNN or TNT or Oxygen or E or whatever. It's like one of those, or Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon. It's like that. I think that the country is made up of somewhere around 15% hardcore QAnon extremists. I would say it's concentric circles. That's the inner circle. The next circle out is 20 to 25%. 20 to 25. And it is evangelical nutcases who will do absolutely anything to gain power. The next circle out is about 40% identify as Republican, 35 to 40%. So that is 60 to 65% of people who do not identify as Republican or extremist, right-wing extremists or anything. But it doesn't really matter because of gerrymandering and a number of other things, like the integration of church and state, making voting a religious mandate. They win a lot of elections that they shouldn't win because there are a lot more people in that district that want reasonable leaders who are not extremists. But when every church in this entire town tells people you need to vote for blah, 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 Mastriano or whoever else, and it's a religious mandate, and if you don't, you're going to hell, you better believe these people go out there and vote for Mastriano. They don't want to go to hell. They have spent their entire lives working against going to hell. That's the idea. That's why the separation of church and state is so necessary. That's why we have to fight to keep it, because religion manipulates people into getting what it wants. That's how it's always worked. Are they bigger than us? No. Are they more motivated than us? Yes. And that's the problem. They're more motivated. We need to be more motivated or grow. One or the other.